Okay, so this is the beginning of the third lesson. We're going to start out by looking at what is considered standard position for an angle. So a couple things to make standard position. We're going to have two rays. One of the rays is called the initial side, and it is on the x-axis. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw that, and we're not really concerned at this point about the size. Okay, so here's my initial side, and then what we're going to do is we're going to turn in a counterclockwise direction until we have the angle that we want. So I'm going to make this one just come right over here into the second quadrant, and the name of that is the terminal side. So counterclockwise rotation, and then we can just draw that angle, and this is the terminal side. Alright, so now let's do a specific one. We want to draw a 280 degree angle in standard position. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and get that initial side. So I want to consider what's going to make 200 degrees. I'm sorry, 280. So this is 90, this is 180, 270. I need to come another 10. One little thing you can do, you can show the rotation. You can label 280 degrees, okay, just like that. So this is my initial side, and this is my terminal side, and that's all we need to do for this type of question. So next we're going to talk about something called coterminal angles. These are two or more angles that are in standard position, same terminal side, are called coterminal angles. So the way to find coterminal angles is to add and subtract multiples of 360. So let's look below. I'm asked to find an angle with a positive measure and an angle with a negative measure that are coterminal with each angle. So I'm going to take 32, I'm going to add 360, and that's 392. Right, so that is my that's my positive measure, and then for the negative measure, that is going to get me minus 328. Now, if for some reason you're working one of these and you don't get to negative, you can keep subtracting 360 again and again. So just consider every time you add 360, it's like going around this way, and every time you subtract 360, it's like going around this way. You can keep doing it over and over again, and the angle is always going to wind up in the same place. In general, you're going to add 360 and subtract 360. So 392 degrees and minus 328 degrees, these are both coterminal with 32 degrees. So now let's consider 195. So I'm going to do 195 plus 360, and that gets us to 555 degrees. And then let's do 195 subtract 360, and that's going to get us to negative 160 degrees. So I've got positive and negative, so we're good for this question. So now we're going to consider radian measure. So it's a way to measure angles that's based on arc length. Okay, so let's consider we have a circle and the radius is equal to 1. So I'm just going to come right in here. We'll say that this is the middle of the circle. So here's a radius. This would be a diameter of the circle. So normally this is 180 degrees. This would be 360 degrees. Let's consider how we can measure that arc length. So you should have learned earlier that circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. Okay. Well, in this circle right here, the radius is 1, so the circumference is it's just equal to 2 pi. Well, 2 pi is the circumference all the way around the circle, and that's 360 degrees. Now, consider if 2 pi equals 360, okay, so we're going to come and look at this right here. 2 pi is equal to 360. Half of 2 pi is pi. And half of 360 is 180. Okay, so 180 is halfway around the circle, and it's exactly pi radians. Okay, so just remember, 2 pi radians equals 360, and pi radians is 180. And I'm going to use this as a conversion factor. Okay, so we're asked to rewrite the degree measure in radians, or the radian measure in degrees. So I begin with 30 degrees, and I'm going to use this as my conversion factor right here. So let's watch how to do this. So I start off with 30 degrees, okay? Now I want degrees to cancel off, so I'm going to put my degrees down in the denominator. That's 180 degrees. 180 degrees is the same as pi radians, okay? So this is going to multiply. So I get 30 pi over 180. And 30 over 180 is just 1 over 6. So this just becomes pi over 6. So this is my degree measure, and this is my radian measure. All right, now this one, we begin with a radian measure, and we're going to finish with a degree measure. So start with 4 pi over 3. And now I'm just going to write this exactly the opposite of what I wrote here. I'm going to put my radian measure down in the denominator, and I'm going to put my degree measure in the numerator. So the radians go away, and I'm left with degrees. Okay, so I'm going to say 180 divided by 3 is 60. So that leaves me with 4 times 60 and 240 degrees. Okay, so I've just said that 30 degrees is equal to pi over 6 if we're in radians. 4 pi over 3 radians is equal to 240 degrees. So the main thing you need to remember is that pi radians equals 180 degrees. Then just make your units cross off the way that I've done below, and you will be in great shape.